Brenton, we're finally doing our To Kill a Mockingbird episode.
Oh, fantastic news, Nathan. Well, any excuse to dress up.
Oh, of course, as a mockingbird?
No, Nathan, as a leg of ham, of course.
What?
Now dig on this.
Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to Classic Movie Banter.
Banter.
You know, that podcast where me, that guy Brenton, and that other guy sitting across the table, Nathan,
Hello.
we tell you about movies that are 20 years or older. 20 years! And we tell you whether those films are still worth watching today or whether they're worth throwing into the street and doing some target practice with the best riflemen in town.
Oh no! Oh no, Brenton. Thankfully, we're not going to be doing that to this movie today, because...
Well, we can't do that in this country, Nathan, because we're not allowed to own firearms.
No, because we've got sensible gun legislation, Brenton.
Hey, Nathan, I thought this show we weren't supposed to have political views.
No, we weren't. That's why I'm holding a rifle at you right now. Does he support it or not?
The joys of an audio medium. No one can see the torture devices Nathan sets me in each week.
There's so many. Anyway, Brenton, I'm so excited. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I've been wanting to review this movie for so long. Like almost as long as these characters have been sitting on their armchairs, Brenton.
Nathan, shall we give a behind-the-scenes look at the show? Just briefly.
Oh, yeah. Or as I like to call it, Brenton finding new ways to piss me off. Because I've tried to redo this episode over like what the 2 years we've been doing this for almost. Like, this is probably the third or fourth attempt we've almost done this episode.
Every single time that Nathan sits down and says, we're doing To Kill a Mockingbird next week, it's always the week after I've gone on some tangent on the show about how we should definitely review some other film apart from To Kill a Mockingbird. So I think the most recent kind of tangent I went on was the one before we reviewed Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
So the next week, we cancelled our To Kill a Mockingbird episode, pushed it back, and replaced it with the Wild Wild West.
And Brenton, and in that case, that was for the better. You know what I mean? And I support that. And like...
Nathan, I got your back, mate. I got your back all the time.
That was
Don't
good.
worry about it.
And I was petrified last episode you were going to do it again.
Nathan, and you know what? I was considering it, but I thought, I'm going to let Nathan have a win this week.
Thank you.
But Nathan, I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe this was the week, this was the time to finally review this film.
Because I said to you after you did that before we hit the 100 mark, before we finish our first 100 movies, we are doing To Kill a Mockingbird. We're sneaking it in before Rocky 5. I want to do it. I want to talk about it. And I'm also, sure, we replaced it with Wild Wild West, but also we replaced it with Court Jester as well. So we've had a mixed bag of replacements. So I'm glad we're finally getting around to it, Brenton.
Hey man, I gave that film a thumbs up, so it was all good for me.
Oh, well, good. Well, good for you. Full disclosure, do you know anything about this movie? About this book? About anything of this?
Of course. I've seen a version of the play. I've read the book, and now I've seen the film.
Oh, look at you, Mr. Bloody Harper Lee #1 fan over there.
She's great.
She's dead. Sorry, listeners, that was dark.
That was very dark.
but that's so good because this will be good juxtaposition. Not Harper Lee being dead.
Look at him trying to dig himself out of the grave he just put himself in with that little
with Harper Lee.
Hey, mate. It's all good. It's all good. Take a deep breath. You're fine.
Thank you.
It's
Brenton's
all good.
holding my hand.
She's dead.
Lovingly.
She's
Thank
dead.
you.
It's okay. We've all moved on.
No, but this would be great juxtaposition because as this is so embarrassing, but I know literally nothing about this. Going in.
Oh, gosh.
I never read the book back in school. I never, even when I did literature in uni, it was never really talked about because they assumed that you did it in high school. So I've avoided this thing my whole life and it's been embarrassing. So now I get to finally know what the fuck this thing's about.
I didn't read this for school either. Out of interest, what book did you read in school?
The one book. If this was not To Kill a Mockingbird.
Did you read Great Gatsby?
Yes, I we read.
Okay, so you had Great Gatsby. Yeah. Cool. Because the two books I think were
the two great American novels that we had to read for the year.
Yeah, we read Great Gatsby, and I remember reading Of Mice and Men as well.
Oh yeah, how's Of Mice and Men?
I do like that book. I like that book.
It wasn't my class that did it.
I've seen that film as well.
Oh really? Look at you, bloody sniffing the literature up.
Mate, and I've seen that play as well.
Wow.
Damn,
Brenton, you
son.
got the trifecta. Well done. I'm so excited when they make a Spy Kids book and a Spy Kids play.
I'm just so cultured.
You're so cultured.
So, of course, the film in question is To Kill a Mockingbird,
Yeah.
released in 1962, based on Harper Lee's novel of the same name, which was published 2 years before in 1960. So, this film adaptation was like, it was in the making. It was a quick turnaround from publication. And like that, because I think, from my understanding, that novel was quite successful. Upon publication, and then director Robert Mulligan, who also directed The Rat Race, bunch of other films.
Of course.
Decided to take the reins and direct this adaptation. So Nathan, can you pitch me To Kill a Mockingbird?
I will pitch you To Kill a Mockingbird, Brenton. Can you pitch me the movie? All right, Brenton, we're in the Hollywood office. We're in the 60s. Welcome. I'm Harper Lee.
Can I have a glass of water, please?
I'm not getting you a glass of water. I'm Harper Lee, bitch. You get your own glass of water.
Okay, don't mind me. I'm just going to come back in about 30 seconds.
How dare you drink water in front of me, iconic author Harper Lee, who's only written one book, but that's okay, because the book's To Kill a Mockingbird. All right, it's the antebellum South. It's the 30s, I think, or the 20s, one of them. It's an old decade. And even though we're in the 20s in the future, who knows? Time's a weird thing. Anyway, it's the 1920s, and there's racism everywhere, Brenton. Look under your seat. There it is, some racism. It's all over the place. Oh no. And you know what? In the 2020s, racism's still a thing. But anyway, the pitch.
Just to clarify, it is. I think it's the mid 30s. But continue.
Okay, it's the mid 30s, and we're in, where the fuck are we? We're in Alabama. And we're in this small town, and there's been a rape. There's been a producer, Brenton. There's been a rape where a black man is accused of raping a white woman, and the lawyer pulled into the court case is Mr. Atticus Finch. And
wait, Finch, as in a type of bird, as in finch, like as in the bird finch, as in like
yes, Brenton.
Mockingbird, like
there might be bird imagery throughout this, Brenton, but we'll get to it.
Deary me, continue.
So he's pulled into this case, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to be a good guy here and be probably the best guy and defend this man who's been accused, even though the town is really against this guy. But Brenton, this movie actually isn't just the court case, because you know what I'm going to do with this story, Brenton?
What are you going to do?
For the first half, we're going to throw in anecdotes of Mr. Finch's kids, and we're going to watch them fuck about for like a good half of a film and just learn some lessons as they live their lives in the small town.
Are you saying that this film is from the perspective of Atticus Finch's children?
Yes, because why not explore racism from the naivete of a child, Brenton?
Why not?
Yeah, so we can learn about prejudice and bigotry and other lessons in this tale about justice and race. What are you thinking so far about this?
I think that you've given me the premise, and now I kind of want to wrap up. I want you to get me involved in the drama.
Here's how I'm going to hook you, Brenton.
I want you to leave me a bit of a hook, like a bit of a cliffhanger.
Brenton, for the lead act, I'm going to cast Spellbound's own Gregory Peck, because I know how much you love Spellbound.
And does he remember who he is in this one?
Maybe. Is this the sequel to Spellbound? We'll get to it. But he certainly does remember some things in this movie.
Okay, so that's your hook.
That's the hook. To Kill a Mockingbird, okay. Brenton, here we are.
That was an interesting pitch. That was a very interesting pitch, is what I'd say.
You're welcome. I'm taking off the Harper Lee wig now. It's all gone.
Wonderful.
Off the dress. There we go.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, I'm back.
Nathan.
Thank God I had that costume just sitting there. That's why I wanted to do the episode, Brenton.
That's the only reason? That's the reason you've been so excited to put on the wig?
Because to tell you the truth, and this is a good way to open this episode, actually, there's such a mythic status to this story, I think.
Is there?
I think coming from the outside, I feel like people like, name a book. I feel like...
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I remember seeing that book in kind of my early adolescence, maybe my kind of late childhood, maybe around the age of like 10, 11.
Last year, we know.
And yeah, and I'd see that book and I'd be like, what's that? That's that book.
That's a book.
But I get what you're saying. There's some novels that you see. It's the same with The Great Gatsby. You see that the image of the front cover of that with the eyes and whatnot, and you know it's important. And not just from the visual thing, but because obviously throughout your first formative years, you've always heard references to these stories. So yeah, I understand that. So continue.
So coming in from the outside, I'm like, here we go, and I'm like, this is it. And I invited my friend Nat around her, and we sat down, And she's like, you made me watch American in Paris. And I'm like, I know, but it's okay. Let's watch To Kill a Mockingbird instead. It'll be great. And so we sat down, and she also had no idea what any of this was about. So we both went in blind, and it was great. Because I thought from the outside, the only thing I really knew about this movie and this story was that it was about, the racial court case. And I thought this was going to be like a real triumphant, like, woohoo, kind of, yeah, like, kind of story. And instead, it's a really quiet, harrowing, and like nihilistic almost like look on what racism was like back in the 30s. And we were both really depressed watching this movie and quite sad. We cried a lot. Like I was really broken watching this, Brenton. Did this affect you?
Yeah, of course. Like, I think this story, I think this story is obviously, it's gone down in history because it has, that emotional response that you're talking about out of its audiences in whatever form that is. Obviously, the original novel is brilliant, but yeah, I think that this, you're right when you say kind of nihilistic, but at the same time, there is hope. I think I think it's a brilliant move on Harper Lee's part. Make our eyes into this world. Our voice is this child, is Scout.
Yeah.
I always think that's a brilliant move. I think what the film captures really well is it captures the place. It opens, with Scout's kind of narration and we see these kids' day-to-day life of just going through this town. And you see, you just see their day-to-day life and you meet these characters, you meet these people, you meet these townsfolk, and you just see, it's obviously during the Great Depression as well, so there's all that happening as well, and no one's that well off at the moment. And when we start to get into the real, meat of the story, to see these really huge kind of human concepts like be put on the forefront, of the screen or the page, or and of this town as well. This is a huge event.
Yeah, I like that this is a small town. It feels like this is like and the characters say this. It's like the most important things that have happened into their town. It's like this court case,
Yeah, it kind of as well with the childlike aspect. It's interesting to look at like Atticus through the child's eye as well. I think like how like there's some idolization going on there, but also like to see how that affects the family, the choices that Atticus makes in this film as well is really interesting, and how the relationships change throughout the film as well.
Especially because you see like him on one level be like, the lawyer and like the good guy and that kind of stuff, but also he has to be the dad at the same time, and how he balances that. And as a single father as well, which also in stories we don't get a lot of single dads.
No, I think the same thing, dude. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I love for instance like with the choices in terms of visually that Scout, has kind of a boyish kind of tomboy appearance, and attitude when she's growing up.
And to be honest with you, I didn't actually know the gender until like a little bit into the film.
And I think that's a good choice, because I think I think it's like a reflection of the fact that there isn't that mother figure there, and there are slight differences in terms of like a single father as opposed to a single mother, or two mothers or two fathers, or a joint parenthood of one mother, one father. It's interesting that like you see like how that effect, and you see, like you said, that it, we don't see that often in stories. It's usually, how many times have we seen the plight of the single mother? And
there are great films and stories out there of single dads.
I agree,
but also what's really interesting is that he's a single dad, but it's not that addressed. Like he just does it. He just does the work, and like obviously they got a nanny that helps out a lot as well, who acts as that kind of parental figure as well. But it's great just seeing him just like take it on the chin and just balance that work and the kids. And it's funny, I didn't think I'd be thinking a lot about the parental angle of this, but I think it really informs the story, especially when you do get there's a lot of like lessons learned in this movie, and not just at the end but throughout it. Like there'll be a scene where like Atticus, displays this great wealth of knowledge when the kids fuck up or something else goes wrong in the town, and you're like, and it didn't feel like he was like talking to us like we were the kids, like as the audience. He just like sounded like this kind of biblical kind of all-knowing kind of guy.
Yes and no. I think what makes Atticus a great character as well is how kind of human he is. Like he obviously has a very strong moral center and a moral obligation to the people in his life.
It's not really explained why as well. It's just it's the most like traditional sense of just like being a man almost. It's like you just do it.
Yeah.
It's like
it's just something he does. It's just the person he is.
Which is great. And also, did you think the class informed that relationship as well? Because in the film it touches a little bit about like, oh, are we poor? Are they rich? And that kind of stuff. Like, did you think that also added a color into their relationship?
Whose relationship?
Like the kids and the dad, because like the two siblings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think class is obviously something that's addressed in this film, and it does obviously affect that family in various ways. It's interesting. It's interesting. Like their income is basically it's referenced a few times that they don't necessarily earn coin all the time. It's more so they earn household items. They earn food, firewood. These other necessities because money isn't necessarily readily available, and so like the fact that there are people that may be poorer than them still affects them, you know what I mean? Which is an interesting...
Especially in a small town, like, they're not going to need a lawyer 24/7, so, like,
exactly,
they got to kind of make do with what is, and I really like that, actually. It baffled me that this is a work of fiction, because everything about, like, this could have happened in real life, and when I was reading into it, like, Harper Lee, like said this was quite anecdotal for her, in the sense that, like, it was based off something that happened to her back in... when she was a kid. I know. I see why she didn't just do that verbatim. I see why she played around with it and actually made it a little bit more eloquent. But like, I really wish Atticus Finch as a person existed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
He's such a good person, and there's so many points in this movie where you cheer for him. And when he also, when things get tough for Atticus, especially as well, I haven't been this lashed onto a character for a while.
Yeah.
Like, he's so just, I don't know. And it's funny because I sound like I'm echoing what people have been saying for nearly a century now, where he's just like the great guy, but he really is. And like, especially in juxtaposition to some of the more recent protagonists we've had on the past couple eps, like, he just feels like that guy you really want to be in the shoes of.
Yeah, I agree. He's an everyman who everyone looks up to.
And it's, do you find it weird though that the kids call him Atticus and not Dad?
Yeah. I think that's interesting. The kids all refer to him as Atticus,
Like, what are they, Homer and Bart? Like, it's a bit weird.
Yes and no, I think, but his relationship with them, either he never really treats them like children,
okay.
You know what I mean? Like, he treats them as adults, as young adults, and respects them and respects their opinions and their thoughts, and thank goodness he does, because, the kid characters, I think, in it are really well developed, and they do provide a sense of they do a lot in terms of the plot as well. It's not just all Atticus in terms of the plot itself. He is the main character, obviously, but like I said, it's through the eyes of these children who themselves, even though they are children, are very adult, are very mature in a lot of their thoughts and their moral values as well.
I mean, yes and no. Like I think that there's moments, especially where I think the brother. I think he's probably the more mature one out of the two. And I probably liked him more. I like Scout because I think there's some great flaws in her that really get explored. But in saying that, I think there are a lot of times where they do act immature, especially when they like sneaking by the neighbor's house, and there's that whole kind of exploration attitude to them, and they just kind of go anywhere callously, and like, I don't know, like it kind of gives me a little bit of Stranger Things vibes, how the kids just kind of like,
yeah, I can see that.
Like, kind of work their way into danger. And there's points where there's things in this movie where the kids make some decisions. I'm like, you fucking idiots. I'm like, don't do that. Like, this is clearly a wrong move. And I was shouting at them, but it didn't make me like them any less for it, which is rare, actually.
It's interesting that we're talking a lot about this work and the story and whatnot, but we're not actually talking much about the film itself. So technically, like, did you enjoy it? Did you what was it about this film?
Yes, it's not a film that for me really stood out that well technically. Like, I don't think the directing was obvious, or I don't think the script was... I think the script's so easy because it's literally just the book. So, like, I think more credit goes to Harper Lee than... I don't know who the screenwriter was, but than that. I think it all did its job. Was this exemplar for you? Were there standout things in the technical department?
It's not necessarily that things need to stand out, but the film itself, I think, stands out because it's one of those movies that... It's not something like 1917, to use a film today, that's a technical prowess and does a lot of things that are amazing, and has a lot of standout things in terms of the cinematography or, editing or whatever it is, or sound mixing, whatever it is. But the fact that this film, I think, gets out of its own way in terms of those elements and really just kind of tells the story. But at the same time, I think there's some beautiful imagery used in this film. And I think that it's black and white as well, like the lighting choices as well, and the use and using black and white to a really good effect to kind of...
Which is also the most obvious metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah. well, yes, true, but like it really highlights some of the images in this film and brings them out for its audience. So I think the biggest thing I can say about it is that the film stands on its own two legs because everything is in service to this story. Everything's in service to the characters and what's happening. And I think that's something that should be commended because it's able to then suck you in, I think. And there's no point in this, like in terms of, like, this is a court drama basically, you know what I mean? It's a court drama mixed with from the perspective of children, you know. So there could be there's a lot of scenes of talking in this, you know, and when there's a lot of meaty dialogue and things like that, people can tend to sometimes not necessarily me can tend to sometimes lose investment. And I'm not saying that the dialogue itself, because the dialogue is brilliant to begin with, the writing's phenomenal, but if the film hadn't been up to par with the writing, people would have just fallen off the bandwagon. There's no point in this that I thought the pacing was off or anything. No. I was like on board the whole time.
You're chewing through a couple of points there. Let me just take you back a little bit because let me start off with you saying it's a courtroom drama. It surprised me how long it took to get to a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen till over halfway in the film, and I was like, whoa. And it's funny because I wasn't actually like. When we arrived at the court, I thought this was going to be the final act of the film, but even then it keeps on going. So I'm like,
it does.
So I wouldn't actually build this movie as just a courtroom drama because so much of this is actually just exploring the small town and getting to know the people and the kind of dynamics between it. So like, I think the movie's got a lot more to it. And going back to another point that you raised, and a really great point you raised, I didn't actually think about if this story was deeply cinematic, because that's a good point, because I haven't read the book or seen the play and that kind of stuff, but looking at the story itself, because it is set in such a isolated setting, this as a story, it actually feels inherently theatrical when I think about it.
Yeah.
When I think of the medium that I want to see this in, yes, as a novel, the prose is outstanding, and the actual delivery of the lines, like you said before as well, is like extraordinary. And it's got that beautiful kind of like deep South kind of sweetness to it, like the way that they talk and oh darn, like the flowers just like the summer, and it reminds me of Mary Lou, like that kind of like beautiful ring to it. But like in saying that, like now that you've seen all three, Brenton, was there a medium that you think best suited the story?
Look, I think the novel's pretty phenomenal. Like I think the novel's the original. It's the original work and it's the original vision. So I don't think there's any really surpassing that. But I think both the play and the film itself, like I think the film's fantastic.
But Brenton, you're showing your cards so early.
But I think the play's great as well. I think they all kind of are great. Like I can't really think of anything else that takes a story and tells it in multiple mediums, and each one kind of gets it right. It kind of nails it. You know what I mean?
Lord of the Flies.
Maybe, true, maybe.
That was a joke. We don't like the film, Brenton.
But it's true. But like maybe.
I'm sure there are people who argue for that. But yeah, there's not that many. Yeah, there's not many properties you can say really done perfectly. You know what? And I think the reason this has been adapted so well across all mediums is the strength of that original script. That original story, like it's so moldable, and I think also like you know the actual choices that Harper Lee made back in the day is what informed this movie to be so good. I was surprised, for example, how excellent the child acting was in this movie.
I was too. Let's talk about performances.
Yeah,
the kids are great. The kids are really great. Like, they're really up to it.
Like not just good, but like almost like Haley Joel Osment great.
Almost like there's a few moments in both of. I'm talking about the two. The siblings in this. There's another child as well, and he's all right. He's fine.
He's okay.
But
I like his big teeth. That's what stood out.
In terms
of
what they have to do in the film, like they do a commendable job in the sense of there's only a few points I can really think of in my mind where you could see that they were saying dialogue that they couldn't truly maybe grasp or live, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Sometimes you see a lot of the times with child performances, and what really shits me about them is that they're saying this dialogue, but like there's nothing going on behind the eyes. They're just reciting lines. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They'd be saying something and like they've got no sense of place or like why they're saying it, what it is they're actually saying.
But it doesn't really happen that much in this.
No, that's what I mean. Like you could probably count them on one hand that I'd be like, oh, and it wasn't distracting at the same time. I'd note that and be like,
I even argue that like, some of the performances by the kids added depth to the lines.
I agree.
Like I loved the schoolyard scene with the kids, especially with that acting. I thought that was a real standout. And obviously there's a confrontation at the end I thought was quite excellent as well for the kids.
Yep. And also like all the scene work as well. Like there's obviously scenes where between Atticus and his children where they discuss ideas. Where they discuss morality and
very Forrest Gumpy.
Yeah, there's big concepts covered for these kids, and they're in there and you know, and obviously the script helps them in the sense of, you know, he's teaching them a lesson, but you can really tell that like that they're really sucking this information in, and that they respect their father, and they, you know, they want to do right by their father, and and they love him.
And that's why it's so good that we're with them as the protagonists, because they
Agreed,
feel that
yeah.
love, we feel that love for Atticus.
And you know what? If the kids hadn't been spot on, like if they hadn't been hitting those marks and going there, you know, like the film just wouldn't be as nearly as memorable or good, and it might have even dragged if they hadn't have been on board. Like you just might have gotten annoyed or left it, but they don't. They suck you in like the rest of this film does and propel you forward into this great story.
Yeah, it's amazing. Did you think, Brenton, that this did a better job with the courtroom kind of thing than A Few Good Men, the last big courtroom thing that we did?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think in terms of the screen time of the courtroom, like you said, it's not a majority of the film.
No, which also goes for A Few Good Men as well.
There's sequences in this, as like you can say this about both films. There's sequences in this where there's just some phenomenal performances like happening on the screen.
Gregory Peck
and, you know,
deserves his Oscar like so much.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. That's the other performance we need to talk about.
Even the rape victim.
Yeah, like she was fantastic. Like everyone, I thought
Like,
all the
everyone's
supporting cast in
great.
this is really fantastic.
Yeah.
The guy that's playing Tommy as well, I think, is really great.
Robert Duvall is in this movie.
Yeah, Robert Duvall made his this is his debut.
What?
Actually.
Really?
Yeah,
I did
this
not
was
know
his
that.
first film.
Because I saw his name in the opening credits. I'm like, Robert Duvall's in this? Like, that's amazing. But he doesn't rock up
Yeah.
for a while, and then I'm like, there he is. And Christ, does he look different in this?
Yeah, but hey, he's got a screen presence.
He
that
does a
guy, so,
very
you know.
interesting performance, which we'll talk about in spoilers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I've got some notes, Brenton.
Well, it's interesting as well, talking about performance, that Gregory Peck obviously won the Oscar, and this film was very well received and was nominated for multiple awards. Even for the actress that played Scout as well was actually nominated for an Oscar.
Was she
for this,
really?
for supporting actress.
That makes me happy. Well done. Sadly, she didn't win it though, did she?
No, she didn't. What's interesting about this film as well is that I want to talk to you about, because this came out the same year as Lawrence of Arabia,
Which did win Best Picture.
which won like Best Picture, and you know
Yeah.
is it was renowned for being a spectacle of cinema, and you know.
And it's funny because I've seen both Lawrence and now Mockingbird. And I mean, you haven't seen Lawrence, have you?
No, so I was wondering what your opinion, given that these both came out the same
Dude,
year.
it's really fucking tough. Because you got Lawrence of Arabia and then To Kill a Mockingbird, like both outstanding for very, very different reasons. Also, as radically different as you
Exactly.
could get for films.
Yeah.
I think technically as a film, Lawrence of Arabia is better. In the same way when Mad Max was competing, in 2015 against all that things, like it should have won all the technical awards. And I think the same thing with Lawrence. Best Picture, like it comes very down to your taste, man. Like, remember, Lawrence is like 4 hours, and I like that movie, but it's a very long movie, and like it's like you gotta fucking sit down for it. I think I prefer actually Mockingbird to Lawrence, because although I love Peter O'Toole and Lawrence, but no, I think there's a lot more to get out of To Kill a
Sure.
Mockingbird than Lawrence. I think there's a good lessons in Lawrence about the First World War and about the Middle East and all that. But yeah, I think Mockingbird's
The
better.
other thing about To Kill a Mockingbird, and this is, I guess, the point I kind of want to end on, is that I think what it does so well is what I said before, is that it takes this story and it really manages to bring the audience in along this journey and everything I think you really care about in this story. What I think's so great about the message of this, because at the end of the day, there's a really strong message behind this, and you won't be missing the lesson of this film. But the point I want to get to is that, like, I think from the perspective it's told, the fact that it's, I think, aimed at, obviously, it's not aimed at ethnic minorities. I think this film is like, I think, like, obviously this film is from the perspective of white people, and white people in a town, and it does
perpetuate a white savior narrative as well, which needs to be addressed.
I think the reason for that, though, and my point with this is that I think that for the time it was written and the time that this was made, it's during the 60s, it's like Atticus Finch is trying to teach
gaps,
its audience
like,
these, exactly. It's trying to teach its audience these virtues, and to try and consider the other person, like to try and consider empathy and compassion, and to live in someone else's skin. And these, like, that this was made at this time is... It's just incredible to me, and the fact that it doesn't come across as preachy.
No, I think it gets close to it at points.
It does. It's always going. It's always.
But it's not like you're
near
watching
that
like
line.
a kid's film where it's like, and here's the lessons and all that.
No, but I think the fact that helps us as well, and that in terms of what we're going to get into in spoilers, and the fact that you said it was kind of, nihilistic and dark, is the reason that I think that this hits home as well. And
yeah, because I was almost worried for a while that it was going to go the route of like fairy tale kind of thing. Like it's like a fairy tale, direction, and everything's tied up nice and neatly. And while some things are, other things aren't. And because we're getting near spoilers now, so I'll talk about that in spoilers. But like, I think it's very intelligent in the narrative directions it takes.
Yeah, agreed.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Yeah, it's this has been an interesting conversation because like I don't.
One of the better ones we've had on the podcast, where we both got pipes in our hands, going, "Oh yes."
It's really interesting because I was going to
Themes.
come into this and kind of do my usual thing, and I was going to obviously I wanted to end on the themes of this film and how well the time it was written in and why it's so important, and you can see why it's still so important today. What's really interesting about our conversation is that I kind of wanted to talk about the film, I wanted to talk about the performances, and yet for the most part we talked about the story, we talked about the narrative, we talked about the themes of this. And so it's kind of... The biggest thing I could say about this is that it kind of elevates above cinema. You know what I mean? This is a talking point that...
You're not just talking about a movie. You're talking about...
exactly.
a story.
Yeah, this is a must-watch in my opinion, and for the reasons for the reasons that we just spoke about, but also that it's just a fantastic film in its own right.
And it holds up in 2020 as well. Like,
yeah,
there was nothing I saw about this going, like, oh, this is so ancient. Like, if only they made this today. Like, I don't know what you'd do with it if they did touch it today. Like,
I mean, they did a revival on Broadway recently, so I guess you could go see the play.
Oh, I meant cinematically, But in general, I honestly Thursday night, if I'd absolutely.
Oh yeah, this is great.
I'd definitely put this on. I recommend this to my friends. I probably, and also I want to read it now more than anything. I really want to read this book, and I think people are going to harp on a lot saying the book's better. So, and as you just said, Brenton, the book's better. So,
but hey, this is a worthy adaptation, and it's really fantastic. So, thumbs are up.
So let's bloody spoil it. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh.
It's funny because there's funny things I want to talk about with this movie because there are funny moments, but I feel so like deeply touched by the themes. The biggest thing I want to get this right out of the gate right now is the result of the court case.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know this going in, and like the whole time I'm watching the movie, it could have gone either direction. When I was sitting there going, oh, maybe he will be called guilty, but maybe he won't. And then Atticus gives this amazing like monologue that goes for like 10 minutes, and he's like throwing everything he's got at the jury, being like,
which fun fact that was done in one take, I think it was. I think it's like about 7 minutes, that monologue.
Jeez,
it's done
like,
it's just his one take he does.
Gregory, like, well done. Like, that's incredible. And it is incredible. And there's so many quotes you can pull from it, and it's inspiring. It's everything it needs to be. Probably every lawyer in the world is forced to watch that. And like, he does it all.
Yeah.
Like, they probably are. And he does it all. And then it's so funny. Not funny. It's so harrowing when you get the result, and it's so nonchalant. Like, everyone has to stand up and it's quiet. And
everyone just leaves the room. Everyone just leaves the.
There's no outrage or riot. It's just, and instead, it's replaced by the most beautiful moment where that pastor is like asked Scout to stand up.
Yeah.
And as Atticus leaves the room, and they're all giving him respects, and Atticus doesn't even look up at them, and I giggled at that first because I'm like, come on, mate, like they're all doing this for you, but he's just so disappointed and so distraught that he can't even acknowledge that.
Like, I mean, obviously they're standing in respect of the man that stood up, for them, for their community, for it's big, it's bigger than just one man, and Atticus, I think, so it's a very emotional moment in the film, but like Atticus walks out of that, and doesn't see that, like the small step that's been taken forward, and obviously, because at the end of the day, he does prove the man's innocence.
Yeah, he does.
Logically, he proves the man's innocence, but it's still a monumental loss, which Atticus bears the brunt of that.
And I was concerned that like when I was watching this, that it would go fairy tale. This is what I was hinting at before, that like he would be not guilty and there'd be this great progression. But I did think it could have gone in that direction, and I'm glad it didn't, because it wouldn't have been true to the time. I'm like,
yeah, I remember in like every single version, like even watching this, I had the same thing, and I know what happens.
Yeah,
you're still yearning. You're still yearning for the people of the jury to do their duty.
And they never will, Brenton. They're locked.
The bit that's heartbreaking as well is the fact that that he loses is when Tommy says that he felt sorry. He felt sorry for this woman's plight, basically, in life, and decided to help her out. And the fact that these people just can't get off their, they couldn't get past their ignorance, they couldn't get past their
bigotry.
Yeah, their bigotry, basically, and understand that all they see is someone, a person of color, basically, that thinks they're above a white woman, and they're like, that's abhorrent. And and you see Atticus in that moment, and it's a great shot when it cuts to Gregory Peck and his reaction to when he says that, because he knows it's a huge blow to the case, and unfortunately I think that's the reason they lose it in the end. But,
and you can see him in that moment when he confronts him and he says, no, we can appeal, as like he's leaving the court. He's like, we can appeal, it'll be great, it'll be he's like Saul Goodman almost. He's like, we'll win it, it's great, but then he just, all that hope completely destroys him. And I can't believe he ran. It's like, what are you doing? It's like what do you think's going to happen?
To be fair to him, you know, the night before the court case, there was a lynch mob that was going to that prison to, you know,
Yeah, I know. It's like, of course, like, yeah, if he lost the case, that means, yeah, there probably would have been another lynch mob ready to go, like, to attack him the next night. But just rock up again, Anakin Finch, bring the kids.
I think as well, like, I think it's something that's really hard to understand of someone that's, you know, convicted of a heinous crime, and that's someone that's obviously innocent.
Yeah, obviously we're looking at this from a perspective, and also we're both, you know, we're white.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
well.
like I get that you're like exasperated of like, why did he run? But like, it just makes sense to me that he tries to.
Oh, I'm just angry and disappointed.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you got a family. It's like,
Yeah, it's
like there's so much to live for. It's like you know what you're doing if you walk out that door, and it's like, and it's great. Roger Ebert actually wrote a great criticism on the lynching scene. Because he took issue with it because he didn't believe that a child could simply turn away a lynching mob in the 1930s. You know what I mean? Like when the girl rocks up and she's like, I recognize your son. And he's like, oh shit, we got morality. And then they leave. It's like...
It's a romantic moment, but you know.
It is very romantic. And it's funny because like in hindsight, looking back on that, I'm like, oh yeah, God, that was ridiculous. But in the movie, when I was seeing it for the first time, I'm like, I was so for it. I'm like, no, this is how it should be.
I think it
like,
goes back to that thing, and Roger Ebert's points, it's right. Like, it's right in terms of the reality of the situation, but I think it's one of those moments that then the film takes these moments, it takes these liberties, I think, to its, you know, to its betterment of like, that's for us, you know what I mean? Like, that's for us to like take in and be like, even
happily, this is one for the
even
team.
An innocent child, you know, can stand there and just, you know, see someone's humanity and just say, oh, hey, say hello to your son for me, when, you know, like, and you see like the shame in like those people's eyes, you know, that as they walk away, that like, that there's
It reminds me a little bit of the KKK scene in Django Unchained.
in what way?
Like when the KKK, like their masks are all ruined and they're all like disappointed and like, shit, we gotta go back home, and they're all like hanging their heads and then walking away. I'm like, oh, people just don't get to lynch anymore, do they?
No, they don't. They don't get to do it, Nathan. And it's probably it's definitely an improvement. I'd say that people
it's
don't
a good
get,
thing
that
it's gone.
People don't get to do that.
I love the disappointment of the crowd as they all walk away in silence. Like, oh bless. It's just. Oh, it's also weird that like, what was Atticus gonna do? Like, if they all just said like, get out of the way, and he was like, no. It's like, was he just gonna let them shoot him? Like,
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I guess he was just like, as he does in the rest of this film, he just tries to approach things calmly and talk things out. And to be fair, like to the mob, like they don't ever raise, you know, like they obviously the thing that goes wrong, if anything goes wrong, like the mob doesn't, you know, get violent necessarily at any point. They do grab Atticus's son. They grab him at that point.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And they say go home and try to, you know, just he says I'll take him home, and he grabs him by the shoulders, and then there's that altercation there. But like things don't really escalate. You know, they're there.
No, which is good for the tension. It bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. So like they're there, and they're happy to talk to Atticus, obviously, and try and reach an understanding to some extent.
Can we talk a little bit, Brenton? I want to talk about some of the lighter things in this movie because I feel like we've been so heavy. Yeah. I really want to talk about these kids actually, because of the things I was laughing so much at during this movie. I love with the kid, like the neighbor's kid or whatever, like the one who's like 7. I love that he offers to be their friend simply by the fact he can read.
Yeah.
Like I love, like could you imagine just being in like the school courtyard and like obviously it's different back then because of the literacy rates improved. But can you imagine like that's your selling point? It's like, fuck, I gotta make friends. It's a new day at school. It's like, hey, I can read. It's
I mean, like
how desperate
I mean,
are you?
I guess it makes sense. Like it makes perfect sense in terms of the story. Like because Atticus reads to his kids each night, and he teaches them, you know, how to read, and and Scout especially has this, you know, this relationship with like her imagination and, you know, and storytelling, and is like in tears and is like depressed at the thought that like her dad may no longer be able to read to her because her teacher said, oh, you know, you come to school to learn to read. You don't learn from your father. You come to school to learn these things.
Yeah, she's like really cut from
that.
It
destroys it. But like it's kind of to me that moment's kind of like, you know, they're like, do you read? Like, are you cool to be part of the club? Like, can you read? Can we?
They're all holding their books all snobby, just like, they can't.
But like, can we read the same books? It's like, you know, do you have Pokemon cards? You know, can we trade? It's like that's what it's like. Like
reading really was the Pokemon cards of their day.
Yeah, well, can you imagine, dude? Like when I think back to like life without, you know, Pokemon, like Game Boys was like the thing that now
in a world where there wasn't Pokemon. Whoa.
Well, yeah, like because and nowadays it's like, you know, people have kids have social media. Everyone has iPhones and whatnot when kids are like 10.
Bloody kids these
but it's
days
true.
on their
That's
iPads.
like insane to me. But like look, it makes sense. Like no judgment on that. Like
Tell you what, this town looks fucking boring when you compare like to our childhoods. I love that they're so desperate for entertainment. They put a kid in like a tire and just roll him down the street.
dude, that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
Would that be fun? I feel like if
Yeah.
I did that as a kid, I would hate that.
Have you not done this?
No, have you done
I've
this?
done this.
Dude, is it not the most nauseating thing in the
Absolutely,
world?
but that's why it's fun. Like that's as a kid, you just go down the hill. You get
How far have you gone in it? Like, does it go far?
like it's.
You did it down a hill. How did you live?
Well, I survived.
You
I was
didn't
fine.
crash into like...
No, it was a smooth hill. It was fine. You just went down, and then it like basically lost momentum, and then you fell on the side, and then you like got up and like stumbled away. Like
And you're like, ooh.
mate, it's good fun.
I do love it when the kid crashes and like they're like, "Come on, get up, we gotta go. It's the bad guy's house," and he's still like, "Ooh."
Mate,
I'm like,
there's
the
a lot
wheel.
of things you can do with a tire. You can tie that thing to a tree. You can, I don't know, you can pretend it's a boat and get inside it.
Oh my goodness! Give Brenton a tire; he'll be entertained for weeks.
Mate, that's another show that we're developing. It's like fun things to do with a tire. Brought to you by Brenton.
That's Brenton's spin-off podcast coming to you soon. I love as well with the kid. I really love the brother as well because I thought it was such a mature moment when they had a fight in the schoolyard and like Scout's like, "Get him off me," and he's like, and she's like getting in the middle of that, that fight, and then like the brother comes along and he acts like the most like posh kid in the world because he's like, "Get off him, sister," and then he has like the balls to invite him over for dinner.
Yeah, I love that. I love that bit.
Like, could you imagine? Imagine you're like fucking grade 2 and like you're watching a school fight and some kid's like, no, break it up. And it's like, no, come over for dinner. My father knows your father. Let us dine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Again, like it's one of those things that, like, you know, when we would get in altercations at school, you'd be called into the office or whatever, and have to sit down with the person and break bread basically. And hey, Atticus is just like, hey man, let's break bread. Bring him over.
I'm sure Brenton got into all those meetings back in the day, didn't you, buddy?
Let's break syrup, as Atticus says. You know, let's pour syrup over my meal.
How fucking rude! Like, even if I did have like a friend come around and like for some reason they had syrup with their dinner and they like poured it over their whole meal, I wouldn't say anything. Like, would you?
No, I'd be like, sure, man.
No, it's like, you do you. It's like if you like your syrup, go for it.
If it started getting excessive and it was like overflowing from the bowl or whatever, or overflowing on the plate and going on things, I'd be like,
The
hey,
kid
man.
just tests it out to see if anyone will say anything. Like it just spills onto the table
Or
by
just
that
they
point.
just start pouring it down their throat. I'd be like, oh, hungry are we?
It's like, come on. But even then, I have like a quiet word after dinner. I wouldn't just like scream at them the way Scout
Yeah,
does.
but like no wonder like Scout gets in trouble for that, you know, like and gets
Oh.
sent away, and it's like, and then that leads into like one of these great scenes where I think that's the moment that she goes outside and Atticus follows her out, and they have that scene on the deck basically where they talk things out.
Yeah, whereas like understandings about comparing people to
and
others.
that
like,
cutting
yeah.
line when she basically says, you know, why are you representing this man? You know, like it's such a cutting moment.
Yeah. Atticus is just like, we got to understand others, and she's like, but Dad, I'm a racist. He's like, well, we got to sort that. Oh yeah, when she drops the N bomb, that was like a.
That's the moment. That's the moment
He's
I'm
like,
talking
don't do
about,
that.
and the fact that he treats her like a young adult, and he talks through these issues without without any holding, no holds barred. You know, he just goes into it with them, and he covers these issues with these kids, and it makes.
I wish Brenton would do that with me.
Hey Nathan, after this, I'll give you a lesson in rolling with tires. You know what I mean? Like,
Ooh, this is going in directions I didn't expect, Brenton.
no, neither did I. Hey Nathan, another great lesson that's kind of implied in this film is when the rabid dog rocks up in the street.
Yeah, and what a great metaphor as well.
Because the whole time, Atticus's son is going, I want a gun, you know, I want a gun, I want to be a man.
He's like, do you though?
I want to shoot a gun. And Atticus is always just like, no, when you're older, I think it's 13 or whatever it is when he got his first gun. And it's always brought up, like, there's just the thing. Anyway, there's this rabid dog in the street, and Atticus is called.
I love it when the sheriff rocks up and he's like, and he says like, oh, your dad's the best shooter in town, and like the Atticus is like, oh, near too right. he's like, oh, he can shoot a fair few barrels. He's like, oh, shut up. Like, it could be so Aussie.
Didn't you think that was a great moment in the sense of like he shoots this animal? The son realizes the reality of like, you know, shooting a gun and violence and what that leads to and whatnot. In that moment that life is just like cut short of this dog that's in the street, and it's like, hey man, don't go near that dog because it's still as dangerous dead as it was alive. You're just like, oh god. And then on top of that, the sheriff then goes, what? Didn't you know that your dad's like the best shot in the whole town? And so like again, Atticus is just a great character. You know, he's someone that is capable of, you know, of violence, of protecting his family, but
he doesn't. Like, there's a great moment where he gets spat in the face near the end of the film, and he still doesn't fight the villain.
And he just wipes his face and leaves. And you know what? Let's talk about that villain character.
Dude, I fucking jumped. Like, literally. Oh, I didn't even mention this before. There are like 3 jump scares in this movie, Brenton.
That's true. Yeah.
Like proper jump scares, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? To Kill a Mockingbird, how dare you? But keep going. But like, when the kids were in their car just like waiting for the dad, and this guy comes out of nowhere, I was like, Jesus, I leapt out of my seat. And he like knocks on the car, and then like Atticus comes out, and the weirdest thing is that Atticus doesn't immediately say, get the fuck away from my kids and car. He just kind of looks at him, and the drunk guy looks back, and he kind of like spits, and then like they walk off.
Well, yeah, I think he says it all in that line when he says the son basically is terrified, and he says that guy is, you know, is all bluff. It's not.
Yeah.
Which is a great line.
I hate him as well. Oh, I hate that man.
Because the whole time he's like directly juxtaposing Atticus, like as a father.
Yeah.
As someone that deals, how someone deals with their problems, you know.
And it's so fucking obvious he's beating his daughter as well.
The fact at the end of this film that character goes into the woods with the intention to hurt, you know, those 2 children.
Jesus.
As retaliation.
What a monster. What a true
monster. As a
monster.
retaliation for, you know, of making a fool, well, not even a fool, of pointing out the monster that's in this town and the fact that this guy clearly beats his own child. Yeah.
Exactly. Even the audacity for him to rock up at the house of the man he put away in jail, the night that he gets put away in jail. Yeah. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I hated him. And when those kids walk in the forest at night, which, by the way, I take issue with. I don't care what festival, carnival you're going to. You don't walk in the woods to nowhere. You take the streets. Exactly. When he came out of the forest and, like, attacked the kids, I also jumped. I'm like, and that poor chick is, like, trapped in the ham costume. I'm like, come on, that can't be that hard to get out of.
Hey, man.
You know what I mean? Man. It's like, it clearly just comes up and down. It's like...
Hey, man, I don't know what's going on in there. Maybe there's some buckles. Maybe there's some straps. Who knows?
But I'm kind of glad she didn't take it off, because then it probably would have been easier for him to get to her.
Exactly, yeah.
So, like, I'm kind of glad that was there. And how wonderful it was when Boo rocked up to save them. And it's a wonderful moment, Brenton. But the third fucking jump scare I got in this movie, the worst of them all, Brenton, that I have issue with, is when they're all in the bedroom and they're like, oh, the child, he's gonna live, it's all bloody roses and dandies, everything's gonna be fine. And they're like, oh, little girl, who saved you? And like, and all the characters in the bedroom, and she's like, oh, him. And it's Boo standing behind the fucking door in the most ominous position. And I leapt off the couch, Brenton.
Did you actually? That he was behind the door?
That scared me so much. Jesus Christ. What are you doing? You just rescued a kid from like almost being murdered, and you put him on a bed, and you decide to stand in the corner while everyone else like huddles around the bed. What are you doing? Like, and then like everyone looks at him and no one else reacts. They all just kind of like, oh yeah, him. And they're just kind of standing there like, it's so weird. But how great is that sheriff though, for being like, hey, let's like just say he killed himself.
Is that great?
I mean, no, it's egregiously against the law and highly illegal, but like moral, and also I guess moral is probably not that great as well. It's like, regardless of the man dead, he should have gone to trial, but like, you know, for cathartic sake, Brenton, the villain was dead at the end.
I see the point, but my favorite thing about that moment is that you can see how much conflict it puts Atticus through. You know, he's like,
yeah,
you know, he's like, what? Like, we should be doing things, you know, by the book, by the system, because the system is there for a reason. And yeah. But like,
you know, as you say that, I'm realizing there's a lot of parallels between Atticus Finch and Harvey Dent.
Really?
You know, he's just trying to do everything by the book, Brenton. The whole film is about testing him doing it by the book. But if you live long enough, Brenton, sometimes the hero becomes the villain. And maybe, Brenton, Atticus Finch could become Two-Face.
Nathan, on that note, shall we get into some special segments? Special segment!
Ooh, so special. Brenton, that could have been a great fan theory. All right, I'm calling it. Atticus Finch is Two-Face. I'm putting it on the books.
But Nathan, you chose another special segment to use for our episode today.
Yeah, I did. Because it could work, because Brenton did these characters learn the true meaning of Christmas.
You know what? There was many lessons learned. You know what I mean? In this film. There was many lessons learned.
Well, when you think of the true meaning of Christmas,
What is the true meaning of Christmas? We're told many things in different films. You know what I mean? Like what is it?
I just love
Like-
Brenton just has a genuine moment of like, wait a minute, like he's on
In
Christmas
Home Alone,
morning.
it's it's family. Family's the true meaning of Christmas. In the Polar Express, it's that if you just believe, it'll all be good.
They're very conflicting lessons that maybe outdo each other.
Mate, there's a lot. The Grinch is a whole mixed bag. It's like I guess
Geez, what lessons are there?
community. The importance of community, the importance of standing up and saying sorry.
Brenton, we'll get to it. We're doing Grinch this Christmas. We'll talk about it.
There's so many like Christmas movies with different things. Like It's a Wonderful Life.
It's true. It's not a consistent thing. That's why it's so funny.
He who has friends, is really rich.
All right. I think one of the Christmas messages is forgiveness and tolerance and love, Brenton. And I think those messages were learnt by some characters in this movie. Evidently, I don't think the victim or the father learnt those lessons, but I think everyone else did, Brenton. I think there were lessons learned. So I think some characters learned the true meaning of Christmas.
Thank you, Santa. Thanks for that.
You know what? This could be set at Christmas.
It could be, but remember though, it takes place over a long time. Like it's not just one time period. It takes place over, I think it's like a few years.
Yeah, and it actually doesn't feel like that as well. Like they handle time really, really well. Yeah. But yeah, maybe that's what they should have done. Multiple Christmases. They're just continually opening gifts, Brenton. Like, oh geez, we got to put the tree again. It's like, oh, and we got to deal with a court case.
Nathan,
it'd be great.
What stills this movie? It's blinding. Nathan, What Stills This Movie is a segment on the show where we pick a frame, a photo, a still from the film that we were reviewing, and we pick this on the basis of whether it's something that's funny, whether it's something that's poignant, or maybe it's just a beautiful shot of some lovely cinematography. We put these images on our social media, on our Instagram and our YouTube. Check the links down below so you can see what we're looking at.
For this still this week, and please look at it, listeners. It's right below. It's that it falls into that category of just a beautiful image. And because normally I pick stills that I just find really funny, and I was actually going to go originally for the reaction of the kid when the dog gets shot, because there's a great freeze frame on his stupid face. But in this, but that's a story for another time. But this still, it's great because you got this frame of like the lynch mob coming in, like with all their pools, kind of cars pulling up like on each side of the frame, and it's all dark and it's nice, and it's really great evidence of excellent black and white cinematography. And you got Atticus Finch looking like a fucking badass, just like Dirty Harry style, just sitting on his chair like outside the jail with a lamp that he brought from home, and just sitting there with a book, just looking though he's so ready, like with all the swagger to take on this mob. And I love it, Brenton.
You love it?
I love it. You know what? I want to now just sit outside my house on my street with that chair and that lamp, and just look at people as they walk by.
Hey, look, I think it's a great pick, man. And I think again, like the juxtaposition of Atticus sitting in the light. I think he's reading, or he's reading, or he's doing some work for the case.
You can't see where his hands is in this still.
It's like he's doing some. I think he might be doing some work for the case tomorrow. Whatever the case, and then you have this lynch mob that is going there to commit a heinous crime, basically, and he's just sitting there calmly in the light, and these figures are coming out of the darkness. It's a beautiful shot. You're right. There's a lot going on.
Beautiful lighting as well.
Definitely.
Like that one lamp, like it's gorgeous. Like, oh, that's actually, you know what? Can we segue into posters now? Brenton.
Yes.
Let's look at this film's poster.
But is it art?
Because, Brenton, with the poster, we'll talk about that in a second, but I think a great poster would actually almost have been the still for this movie of Atticus like standing outside the jail with all the lynch mob about to approach this victim, because I think it's representative of what that film's about, and you could have like To Kill a Mockingbird and text over it.
Maybe. I think a better still would be when he leaves the courtroom and everyone's standing on the top balcony.
True, but that might give it away in the poster.
Maybe, true. Because when we get to the actual poster, it's not great, is it?
It's horrendous. It's so terrible. And I think I've seen this before. No, we've done a poster like this before where it's been a book.
I hate it. I hate the fact that they were like, oh, To Kill a Mockingbird is best known as being a book, so let's have them coming out of the book. It's terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah, literally the characters coming out.
It's so bad.
I swear we've done a poster before that it's done this too. I can't remember what it was, Brenton, but in the 100 movies we've done, there's definitely been a poster that's also done this as well.
Our loyal listeners, let us know, what film did we review that had a book with characters
remind us.
coming that had a poster with characters coming out of a book.
But like with this especially, it's just it's egregious. Like and also the log line is way too long, where it's like the rare film story of a father who must expose his children to a small town's outraged passions and can only protect them with his love. It's.
But hey, I think as well with this poster, it's funny how it says not suitable for children. Like, it's like in big, bold, yellow letters down the bottom.
Yeah. Isn't, of all the fucking movies we've reviewed, this is the one that gets the little stamp on it? Like.
Yeah, and what's interesting, though, is that obviously they were worried that, you know, they have a very, they have a family, basically, that are embracing on this poster coming out of a storybook. And so you could be forgiven for thinking, oh, yeah, this is going to be a classic children's tale. And it's, like, not suitable for children. And it makes sense. Look, it makes sense that it's not suitable for children. This is about...
No, I wouldn't recommend this for kids as well. I think out of anything, they'd just be bored.
This is about a rape case, you know? Like, it's...
Yeah, geez, it's like... Oh.
You know, like...
I'm like, well, then again, Maleficent. I don't know if you've seen that Angelina Jolie film.
No, I have not.
Oh, in that... Spoilers for this movie, if you care. But there's a scene near the start where she loses her wings. And it's the way it's done, it's meant to be a rape allegory.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and the way it's executed, the way she reacts, the way she talks about it, it's the most obvious metaphor in the world that, you know, her losing her wings is essential rape. And it really makes you, like... feel this, it's quite strong for this character early on in the film. So I'm not saying you can't do that in a children's movie, but for this movie particularly, I probably wouldn't push this anywhere near a child.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because I said, they'd be bored, and I don't think they get the lessons just yet.
That's it. And you want people to watch this at the right time in their lives where they can
like for me at 24,
yeah, and you can appreciate it.
But yeah, we've already given better suggestions. So title talk.
Ooh, what's the title?
To Kill a Mockingbird. Nathan was there to kill a mockingbird and to kill a mockingbird.
I mean, he says the line at one point in the movie.
It's said twice.
Like,
it's said at the end as well.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we get the metaphor. And because like, oh, mockingbirds, they sing, and you got to protect a thing that sings, and you don't want to kill it. And like, we get it. The mockingbird is the guy, like on trial. Like we know.
But the mockingbird is also Boo at the end of the film.
Yes. Yeah. Also Boo as well. I was disappointed there wasn't a literal mockingbird, Brenton. I was very upset.
I'm fine that there's. I am fine that there is no.
I wanted it shot.
I am more than happy that there was no literal mockingbird in this film.
No, as he left the court case, I wanted the camera to pan out of the court, and then down flies a dead bird. And that's the most obvious metaphor, and that's all I wanted, Brenton. I wanted a dead mockingbird in this. In saying that, though, what an incredible title, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah,
it's one of the best titles ever. It's genuinely genius.
Beautiful. Love it.
Also, I love the parody play that has the title Tequila Mockingbird. Look it up. It's about a drunk woman, and it's called Tequila Mockingbird.
Well, hey, let's pass that power to the people.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
So, Nathan, I'm looking at the tomato meter score at the moment.
Tomato.
Yeah, it is a tomato. To Kill a Mockingbird holds a critical consensus of 92% with an audience score of exactly the same at 92%.
Oh, look at that. Critics and audiences coming together for To Kill a Mockingbird.
Kevin Carr from 7M Pictures says, I got so much more from this story as an adult, and it's a shame that my adolescent stubbornness kept me from the movie for so many years. Well, I experienced this story in my adolescence. Twice. And,
do you wish you waited later?
No, like I thought it was a good story at the time and really enjoyed it. And yeah, it didn't really have that effect on me. But I can understand some people wouldn't be up for it. You know what I mean? At that age.
I completely understand that too, yeah. Oh, look, Brenton, the Sydney Morning Herald, our own city.
Oh, hey. Oh, wait,
hey.
What's that I see? Do I see a bit of green as if it's a rotten
didn't like
review?
this movie, Brenton. Sydney's own. Gregory Peck stays beautifully within the character of the bespectacled widowed man, but with its episodes unevenly jointed, the script is too repetitive and long.
Oh, no.
I don't agree with that. Like,
I disagree.
I guess there's a point to be made that potentially the episodes at the start of the film don't inform that much towards the end. Like with the kids, like, you know, banging on the neighbor's house and sneaking through the fence. But like, I still like that it's there.
Yeah, me too. Like, I think it also adds to like, because they have to build up the suspense of who Boo is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's very Jasper Jones if you've seen that.
Yeah, sure.
Josh Larson from Larson on Film didn't like it either, Brenton. He gave
What?
it 2 out of 4, writing, so much of the novel's reckless atmosphere is missing. Do you agree with that?
Not necessarily. Like, I thought that the film quite captures the world very well. You know what I mean?
Did you like the narration of like adult Scout? Like, did you think we needed that part of it?
That was the only thing I think that maybe I was questioning. But you know, it makes sense. It makes sense that it's retrospective and it's looking back at this formative time in this person's life.
Yeah, I get that too.
2 stars from Anonymous, and they said they killed a dog. 2 stars. So, hey,
I mean, it's pretty
to be fair,
straightforward.
it was a rabid dog that was being put down.
Yeah, it was rabbit, and you could clearly see it was rabbit. It's like, come on. You got to put down a rabid dog.
I think there was a few repeated shots in there of the dog like coming towards them on the street. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how you get a non-rabid dog to do that.
I like that the dog too, they were adding this sound effect that it was all rabid, and there's this lovely wide shot we have in the background of Gregory Peck with the rifle pointing at the dog, and the dog kind of walks into frame and it just like goes to a spot and is like just sniffing the floor. Like the body, the dog's body language.
The most non-rabid way.
Yeah,
like.
the dog's body language isn't rabid at all, but you just hear this like over the...
It's so stupid. You're like, oh, bless it. It's like, you do what you can.
Aiden M, half a star. Half a star? What the fuck?
Star.
Why is it in black and white? Aiden, grow the fuck up, man.
Why are
Like,
you in black and white?
Come on. Like,
Would this be better in color?
no. Like, no. There's something
I didn't
about
find it like an impediment.
black and white. Like, just a film doesn't have to be in color to be modern or to be good. You know what I mean? There's a real artistry to making something in black and white that works.
This is one of them.
Exactly. This is a beautiful film. The Lighthouse is a beautiful film, and stands the test of time. Because of the way it uses its lighting, the way it uses its shadows, the way it composes the blacks and the whites on the screen so that like you get a clear image. Sometimes I think black and white, because like color's just like a given nowadays, you know what I mean? And films...
Brendan's like, there's color everywhere. I can't get rid of it.
Color in films is a given these days. And when a film like has to have the artistry to like use no color and still highlight things in the frame...
You get Schindler's List.
That's exactly right, Nathan. And...
Thank you. Do I get a cookie?
You sure do. Here you go.
Oh, yay!
Here you go.
I didn't know
Open
there were
wide.
treats in this house.
No, but like there's a lot of films that are in color today that just take that for granted and they don't use it in any interesting way or to...
Brendan sits down in the cinema and like it starts in color and he rolls his eyes like, oh, another one. Like,
I'm just saying that it's something that should be considered if you want to have your film in color, and maybe you should consider using black and white because it could enrich your film in ways that you didn't even realize at the time.
Here. Hannon Washer on YouTube wrote, I applaud this movie for taking the dialogue straight out of the novel for nearly the entire movie.
Oh, round of applause.
Well done. Well done. It's the only creative decision they should have made, and they did it well.
Well done.
And lastly, Halloween's own Michael Myers. What did he write, Brenton?
He said, this might be the only book I've had to read for school that I actually enjoyed.
Now, could this comment be written by Halloween's Michael Myers?
You guys heard it here first from Michael. Thanks, mate, for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We love your movie. Go back to our episode if you want to hear about it.
Well, Nathan, that was To Kill a Mockingbird.
That was also episode 99, Brendan.
Oh, dearie me.
Next week. We're going to hit the 3 digits, Brenton. We'll be centenarians.
What movie could we possibly be reviewing for that amazing milestone?
I mean, I may have said at the top of the episode, but it's Rocky 5. I mean, come on, obviously. Like, we got to go back to Rocky. And I'm so excited, Brenton.
Guys, get excited.
I've been wanting to know what happens in Rocky 5 for so fucking long, and we now get the answers. Is the sex robot back? We'll never know until next week.
I can't wait. I can't wait until then. But until then, we have something to do, Nathan.
We do. We have to thank the listeners because they're the best thing about this podcast.
They literally are. You guys...
They really are. It's
I
certainly
don't know
not us.
how you stick with us, for multiple episodes, through the whole episodes. It's just a wonderful time to do this show for you guys, and we hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, please give us a rating, give us a review on whatever format you're watching the show, because it really helps us out. And let's continue that conversation, What did you think of To Kill a Mockingbird? Tell us on Instagram.
I liked
Tell
it,
us on
Brenton.
Twitter.
I told you already.
Nathan, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to our lovely listeners.
Brenton never talks to me these days.
I wonder why. You guys know, right? Yeah, you know.
Oh, well, Brenton, I'm just done. I got nothing. I'm just gonna go.
Well, Nathan, don't mind me. You can't leave yet. I need to get out of my ham costume. And remember, I've packed it full of actual legs of ham to try and give it the right scent. So just don't mind
That's
me.
why my house smells. Well, don't just leave it here, Brenton. Take it with you.
Nathan, I'm not going to eat all of this.